All right, we are ready to go live. I want to welcome everyone to Monday edition of Bizapalooza Chat. I am so excited that you've decided to join us today because the number one word for 2018 is actually two words: sophisticated outreach. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm so excited to have this guest with me today. And I'm stumbling over my words because I am such a big fan, the king of social media and of all things outreach, Ian Cleary. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you very much for having me. Delighted to be here.
Well, I have to, as the folks are tumbling into Twitter, this just gives us an opportunity to sort of chat a little bit and get everyone sort of warmed up for the topic. But the one thing that stands out to me is that I did one of those things. You ever see like a quote unquote celebrity and they're out of context and you can't believe it's them? So you're just like lost. And that was my reaction when you showed up at Content Marketing World at my little cocktail party.
Oh yeah, I remember that in the bar at Cocktail Marketing World. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, hello. And you said, I'm Ian. And I said, well, hi, I'm Ivana. And I'm like, oh, so what do you do? He goes, I'm a blogger. You are not just a blogger. Why did you say you were just a blogger when you are like one of the most renowned people in social media and outreach and all of these good things? Why did you say you were just a blogger?
No, I like being called a blogger,
Most people don't. Why do you like being called a blogger?
I don't know, because I that's my passion. I started off blogging, and that's where I built an audience, and the social just happened because of that, but really it was blogging that made all the difference.
So, one of my first questions for you is my favorite question to ask someone who's really, really accomplished is how long it took for you to become an overnight success.
Yeah. Well, many, many years, and it's still work in progress. So the usual, you always look at somebody else and go, oh, everything's perfect, but nothing's ever perfect. It's always work in progress. So, how long am I doing this? I suppose about 10 years ago, I left corporate world, and the first couple of years was challenging to get, a steady, reliable income. Then I started Razor Social about 6 years ago, and the first year or so, there was very little income, and then the second year start growing, and third year. So, yeah, I don't know, many years. And I still feel at the moment, like now, you see, I'm drifting back into software, and that was my original thing was software before I drifted into this. So I feel I'm still on this journey and still reaching for, what I want to achieve.
What do you want to achieve that you're reaching for?
I suppose it's more success. I like the challenge, and the software side of things is a big challenge. So, and one of the reasons actually that I like software is the regular recurring income. And that's one of the things I look for, is to get that. And although software is very hard to get up and running, and it's more challenging than content and training and all sorts, there's a good potential to get regular recurring income. So at least on a monthly basis, a certain amount is coming into your account.
Okay, great. So to just sort of track off again, people are just warming up. It's a Monday afternoon. It takes folks some time here in the United States to get going.
Sure.
But one of the things that I saw about you on the personal side is that you're into kickboxing and breakdancing. I saw some of your awesome profile pictures. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'm fitness fanatic. So, over the last week, I done gymnastics, I done mountain biking, and what else? I did something. Oh, it was kickboxing as well. So I just love fitness, and I love any sort of variety of fitness. So kickboxing is definitely a passion of mine. I did 4 years, 2 nights a week, and then I took a break for a while. Now I do it once a week, and I love sparring because the overall training with kickboxing is very intensive. You burn more calories than most sports with kickboxing, and that I need that intensity. And it really, when I go training, I forget about everything, so.
It's the one thing that has you be in the present type of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because if somebody is coming at you with a fist, you don't be thinking of your next blog post or, social media or any of that is not really important. So yeah, I actually always looked for the meditation type thing. What was my meditation? And I figured I just not a person that can sit down and close my eyes for 20 minutes and breathe slowly and do yoga and things like that. That just doesn't work for me. So the gym is my meditation. I figured that out. That's when I need a break. When, if I'm at home and my wife goes, she looks at me and sees I'm anyway stressed, just goes, go to the gym. And she knows I'll come back a different person. So the gym is my break from everything. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I can totally relate. I find that in the work that I do, that you do, it's like your brain is always on for something. We actually just came back from a ski vacation because, again, if you're zooming down a hill,
yeah,
you kind of can't be anywhere else other than where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
But
and you need that. I mean, it's, another thing I did before recently was it was about 6 months ago, I deleted email from my phone just so I could be more present with my kids when I was out and about. So there's some things that you can do to be more present, and the sport is my break from everything.
But one of the things I noticed when we were on our ski vacation is, of course, I don't get to ski very often, and I was thinking to myself that there were a lot of what would you say, comparisons, analogies between skiing and maybe like marketing a small business. I just got to see a lot of interesting things in this like physical expression of doing something. For example, this counterintuitive idea that you have to like fling yourself down the hill.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it well, you have got to throw yourself into it and like commit. And I thought that was like, I don't know, I had this like you were saying, these meditative moments as I got to see things. And was kind of curious on your end, when you are doing an activity you like, whether it's mountain biking or kickboxing or anything, what comparisons have you seen with outreach as something that we're going to be talking about today?
Well, I just see it in terms of I'm competitive, I like to achieve and I'm very determined and stuff. So there's, I'll never let go of something in the gym or I'm very competitive with the people I train with and stuff. So I have an abundance of energy. I always had. The energy was never an issue. I could go out to a party 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'm back up at 6:30. And I'm either working or go to the gym or garden or something. So it's all that energy that I see in terms of the energy I have in work and the energy in the gym is very similar.
That's awesome. So let's just jump into and start talking about outreach. Could you please, just to get us all on the same page about what is outreach? And I'd like you to talk about it more in terms of like, what is good outreach? What is outreach defined and what is it supposed to be doing? Why do you want to do it?
So you've inbound marketing and outbound marketing. So your inbound is where you sit here and you wait for people to come to your website and you create blog content and you hope Google finds you and people come visiting your website. That's the dream, which is great, because you've done all that work and people come to your site and you do business. Outbound marketing is where you're reaching out to people. So you're not waiting around for them to come to your site. You're identifying a list of people and reaching out to them. And that could be for various reasons. You could be reaching out to them because it's for a potential lead. You could be reaching out to press to get, press. You could be reaching out for guest posts. You could be reaching out to sites to try and get links back to your site. So the reality is you need to do both inbound and outbound marketing. It's not a case, I love inbound, but I love outbound as well. If you, like, for example, imagine a startup business says, right, I'm going to start creating blog content. No matter how good that blog content is, not going to go anywhere unless they get out there and promote that content. And that's either reaching out to people or building relationships, getting their content out there. So the big difference in terms of how you would do it is with inbound marketing, if you got subscribers, you use your email marketing tool. And you can have 10,000 subscribers or 50,000 and you send fairly impersonal mails through that tool. And people know it's coming from that tool. Whereas outbound marketing, you're talking about much smaller lists, much more personalized, and it's going directly through your own tool. So all it is, like our outreach tool, just stops you using Gmail and an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of all the people who are reaching out. Because after a while, you just completely lose track.
And talk a little bit about that, this whole like losing track, like why, I'm probably jumping all over the place right now, but like why do you need a tool exactly to do outreach, and why?
Well, the thing is, I mean, when you reach out, you might be reaching out 10, 20, 50 people. Say if you're reaching out to 50 people. Well, first you want to see, did they open the emails? Did they respond to the emails? If they didn't respond to the emails, you may want to send a follow-up email and just go, hey, because some people just missed it. They were busy that day, or, plenty of reasons. So the follow-up email is generally just as important as the first email. So you can send that follow-up email. You can track if they opened it, if they clicked on links within it. And then when they get a reply, then you can then respond back to them. But within the tool, or any tool or the outreach, you're going to track who on an ongoing basis, who you reached out to, what were the results of that. You come back in 3 months' time. And if I reach out to you and say, hey, would you be interested in this opportunity? You say, no, not now, but maybe in the future. So I'm going to track that. So then in 3 or 6 months' time, I'll reach out and say, hey, we chatted about this a few months ago. Would you be interested at this stage? Like, for example, in sales, most of sales is follow-up. If you don't do the follow-up, it won't happen. Now, if you don't have a tool to manage all that process, you just don't follow up and forget about things, lose complete track of what happened. And it ends up just too time consuming if you do try and track it. So this would automatically track everything in the background. So it knows like who you've reached out to, what were the results. We even, like in the tool, work out a prospect temperature to say, is this person hot or cold? Are they not interested, never interested, or will they be interested in the future?
So Ian, what's the difference then between using an outreach tool versus using like a CRM?
Yeah, so a CRM is a relationship management tool. They generally, if they have any email facilities, it's generally very small email facilities. It's not designed for reaching out to people. It doesn't have the personalization, or it's not specific to outbound marketing. So it's more about relationship building.
Got it. So is an outreach tool necessary primarily for the purpose of, as you said, like outbound marketing, but for, what should I call it, digital assets, right? If you're talking, let's kind of go, you mentioned there's influencer campaigns, link building, you'd mentioned sales.
Yeah, I mean, if you do lead generation, it's like you're any sort of business, and you're like, you provide training content. Well, you might reach out and look for businesses that are very suitable. I mean, what I'd say to people is the outreach is, it's not like reaching out and going, hey, I've got this training program, do you want to buy it? It's really looking at going, I have some valuable piece. So you have a content marketing approach to it. I have some valuable free piece of content. Would you be interested? Then you open up the conversation. If they're interested in that, say, would you be interested in the next level up if that was valuable? So our role is just not just a tool, it's educating people about how to do outbound properly and take a more traditional content marketing view to it, in the way that we provide a lot of value for free before we expect anything. Take that sort of approach to outbound.
And I think that's the part I'm most interested in. And I'll tell you, Ian, you get pitched all day long. I get pitched all day long. I get these emails constantly, whether they're asking for links, or whether they're asking for me to share their content, or whether they're asking to guest post, or whether, they're asking for all different kinds of things, right? Now, the challenge I have is I look at those emails and they make me want to stick a fork in my eye, because they're all asking me to do work for nothing. So I'm really interested, because you have really built a business on outreach. Clearly, you've been doing something right. What is it that I am not getting about this? Because it just all lands as annoying to me. And I don't want to be that annoying person to other people.
Yeah, I mean the key to it is that I mean most outreach is poor, which is great because it means that when you do good outreach, people notice. So if you reach out to somebody and you reach out to somebody in an authentic way and you demonstrate that you have some knowledge about them, knowledge about what they're doing, it's relevant and it may be around the time when they're interested in a certain thing, well then it's a lot easier to get engage people, you know. So for example, if you said, oh, I'm going to do an interview series with the top influencers within the fitness category around the world, well, I might go, well, somebody's just after releasing a book. I'm going to go to the book. I might give them a review of the book. I might interact with them on Twitter about the book. And then I might reach out and go, you know, I'm just after reading, here's 3 things I've implemented and here's the results I got. Just in case you ever want to use it, you get into a conversation. Then you say, by the way, you know, it'd be an honor if I could have you on the show. And then all of a sudden you're having a conversation. And when you build relationships with influencers, you build influence naturally as well. So it's just a different approach to outreach. So that's a big part of what we're going to do is education to change how people consider outreach. So there'll be always the bad outreach people, but there's plenty of bad inbound marketers with rubbish content and send spammy emails. And, you know, so you can send spam anywhere. You can, you know, in any sort of marketing, you can spam. There's people running Facebook ads, and Facebook ads is an outbound marketing strategy because you're reaching out, targeting a specific audience, and there's a lot of bad ads as well. But if you target people in the right way and put something relevant and interesting to them, then that's a different story. I mean, every so often I get a really good, genuine email, you know, and there's the ones that I really respond to, you know.
So I really get what you're saying, because that's how you can tell that something is absolutely genuine. And to really get the quality of that interaction, it's got to be, it requires work on your part.
Yeah.
It requires work on your part. Now, I have to admit to you that I've had access to your tool for, oh my God, it seems like a few months. And I went in there early on, and the first thing I noticed is that I had to create lists. Well, there were choices to be made, right? Like, what type of campaigns do you want to run? You had to have lists. You had to get lists together. And I think a lot of people might have the wish, what I call magical thinking, is that the tool will solve your problem. But one of the things I noticed about your tool is that you have to have your list together. You have to have done some research in order to make that tool work well. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how do you go about, you know, how do you go about thinking this through? Like, what kind of campaign do I want to run? How do I create that list, and so on?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 parts to the outreach, I suppose. There's the discovery and then there's the outreach itself. Discovery is discovering the relevant prospects and everything. The thing about it is there are these tools out there. I mean, there's some tools are great, but there's never really one tool. It's a combination of both and a bit of research required. But I suppose it's really just thinking, what's the most important campaign for my business at the moment? I mean, what's important for us is selling our tool. So we will do various outreach. We'll outreach to our friends that we know, and it's just an easier way to keep track of that. I'll outreach. I'm doing a research report on outbound marketing because the people interested in that research report will be potentially interested in our tool. So we will create a list of digital agencies, and we've actually created a list of about 1,000 digital agencies with email addresses. So I got somebody to help me with that. And I'll reach out small groups at a time for that. And the outreach will be about, do you want to do this research? And as a result, the research report will be a cost to it, but if you're involved in it, you'll get it for free. Are you interested? And then you're going to be featured alongside these other agencies. So most people will respond and go, yes, they'll answer some questions, be part of it. Now we're getting into that conversation with them about, you know, issues related to outbound, and the report will come up with the issues. And then we'll discuss them in terms of like how we could potentially solve or help that, you know, so that's where we get business. So it won't be reaching out to an agency, go, hey, I've got this tool, do you want it? Yeah, it'll be a different approach. Another way we're doing it as well is that a lot of agencies or companies reach out looking for identify broken links on people's sites and say, hey, that link is broken. Did you know? Here's an alternative. So we're bringing out a utility which will be free, which is for finding broken links. So we'll reach out to people and say, hey, we've got this utility for finding broken links, thought it might be useful for your business. Here's a link to it. Now, the benefit to us is that when people start using it, then we'll have a promotion for our tool as part of that. Plus, we'll get a lot of links to that tool because it's a free tool and it's useful. So again, it's a slightly different approach in terms of the outbound side, but we're certainly not advising people to send tens of thousands of emails. That's just not possible. Actually, our limit on emails for an account is 500 a day, and I consider even reducing that further. So it's never going to be a tool for sending thousands of emails a day from one account.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things, I didn't even, to be honest with you, think of this when I developed my brand DIY Marketers, but I get solicitations from people who think that I am like a construction site.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if you get people trying to sell you shaving cream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all sorts of ridiculous stuff. On the blog content about carpets on my site or something. I don't know. It's like,
and that's definitely something that, we all want to avoid. And that would sort of be fixed if you were like really doing your research.
Yeah.
Right? But talk a little bit about some of these. Is this tool good for small business owners?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a small business owner, how do they get business? So you can create all the blog content and social media and all that, which is great. I'm a blogger myself, so but it takes a lot of time and effort, and on its own, it's not good enough. And then what you need to do is then how am I going to connect to an audience that hasn't found me, doesn't know about me, so I may need to reach out. I can go to networking events in my local town, or I can start finding a good prospects online and start reaching out there. So from a small business point of view, you should be doing outreach every day, really. Now, I'm not saying send 1,000 emails. I'm saying pick 5 relevant people on a daily basis and reach out with something of value. And if you're going to ask for something, make sure it's a small ask and make sure it's a very, very relevant ask,
So that makes sense. So even a what I would like to call like a Main Street business owner, let's say you have a kitchen remodeling business, right? So you might, maybe you'd want to connect with, I don't know, real estate agents or, other contractors or people like that you could leverage each other's strengths. Is that's kind of what you're talking about? Yeah,
exactly. So you're just identifying who's your target audience and then making a list of them and then reach out in an authentic way to that audience,
So I think
if you get a very relevant email, it's like it's about relevancy with the email,
Absolutely. I think those are the two big hitters, and in so many ways it's a good thing, and in so many ways it's a bad thing, right? Like you're going to get people like me. They're like, "Oh, this is awesome. I need to do this, and I have to build my list, and I haven't done that just yet."
As a strategy shared, it's reaching out to people in a relevant way. Even if it's cold email, it has to be well targeted. So for our outreach as well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a cold. People call it cold. I hate that word cold, but people call it cold emailing if you don't know the person. But outreach like that doesn't have to be people you don't know. I was talking to a guy the other day, he does outreach, and he was saying, well, he's running a conference and he wants to send emails to speakers of the conference, exhibitors of the conference, and some exhibitors say, I'm not interested in this conference, but maybe next time he needs to record that. And then he can produce an outreach campaign next time for the same group, So sometimes it's, warm contacts there. Just it's an easier way of reaching out.
So you mentioned outreach campaigns. What does an outreach campaign look like in its most, basic sense?
Yeah, I call it a campaign because we created this wizard, a 4-step wizard to create a campaign. So you start off and you select what is the type of campaign, a name of campaign, then you upload people that you want to reach out to, then you create your emails, and then you send it. So that's sort of your campaign. And then after that, you can start looking at your campaign progress and see what's the progress on it.
So when you have like different emails, I think one of the things I notice is there's so many choices, right? You can run let's talk a little bit about some of the more common ones. Like if you're running an influencer campaign, typically what do those look like? And when you say you send these emails, are you sending series of emails to these folks? And what is the typical ask, or what's the most effective ask?
So if you're reaching out to a group of influencers, you have to understand that if you approach them in the wrong way, you'll damage the relationship, and that could have an impact on your business. So you have to be very careful on the outreach. So one thing we did is when you import a list of influencers, if you're sending you personalize the email, but then we allow you to customize each individual email. So you go to one email, change it, next change. So it allows you to really customize and personalize. So yeah, it's identifying a group of influencers, reaching out to a small group, and then what is that ask? It depends. Maybe there isn't an ask. Maybe it is purely relationship building. A lot of it is, well, with influencers is can you open up a conversation? So interviewing an influencer is probably a good way of building a relationship. And if you think of influencers, the majority every day, people are looking for something. So if you're not looking for something, you stand out immediately. So maybe instead of looking something off them, look to see how you can help them.
Got it. Absolutely. I mean, that actually, of course, one of my things, and I'm not using a tool for that, but I think I should be, right? I just happened to know that you had the tool. I saw that you were launching it, and I'm like, aha, this would be a great way to talk to Ian Cleary to get on board with this outreach tool, right? So,
that's the thing people do as well, to keep an eye on. So like Brand24 is a very good social media monitoring tool and web monitoring tool. If there's somebody you're interested in connecting with, monitor them over the space of a few days and see what's coming up and what's going on, and then reach out in relation to that, which is, if people reach out to me about outreach, and, of course, it's a perfect opportunity at this stage,
Absolutely. So I really love what you said. And I think the unstated thing that we've been talking about, but hasn't been stated clearly, is that you've got to be really clear about what you want to accomplish with this outreach campaign that you're running. Like you were saying, you have this outreach tool, you ultimately want to sell the outreach tool. So if you're going to be talking to influencers, you only want to start the conversation a little bit and get them talking back to you, and so on and so forth. You did something really interesting. And I don't know if this falls into the category of outreach, but when you had developed the tool, you did this thing where you can I did it, you sign up, and you share, right? You share about the tool, and somehow I'm assuming that once we did that, we got into some type of a list of people who were fans and supporters. How did that work?
So I ran a pre-launch campaign before we done the official launch, and said, if people wanted to join the pre-launch campaign, the top 100 people on that list would get an offer for the product for 50% of the product. And the way to get onto that list, once you join the list, it would say what number you are on the list. And then if you share that in social or email or any of that, then you would get points, and then you start moving up the list. So what this just created a lot more awareness about the tool, because there was a lot of social sharing, a little bit of a competition. And then when we opened it up, we sold a good lot of licenses immediately on that day, because people were, they were on that list. They thought maybe that offer wouldn't come back again, which we said we wouldn't do that offer again. And it works. So that sort of pre-launch sort of works really well. What you're doing is to tease people with something before the launch. And it's always nice to get the first customers in,
Oh, absolutely. I have to admit, you tripped my trigger, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I never normally would have even bought, right? Yeah. Because I'm like, this isn't something that I use. Do I have time to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then you see, well, this ain't coming back. And I'm like, well, this is a part of my strategy. And I think that's the key point. When you're doing outreach, I think you have to be really clear about what you're doing it for, why you're doing it, what your goals are, so that you can identify, do I want to build links, or do I want to generate relationships, or do you have any advice for, let's say, a small business owner, and someone like with infrastructure, maybe in, I don't know, like I said, maybe like a lawyer or a company that does kitchen remodeling or a bicycle shop, or I don't even know, but they have content, they want to do outreach, to build their business. How do they start setting goals around that with all the different options?
Well, the thing about it is, if you're reaching out 20, 30 people, you want to see in terms of, what's your open rate initially? Are people actually opening the emails? Is it interesting enough? And then what's your response rate? I mean, if you're getting an open rate of 40 or 50% or higher, then there's something relevant and interesting in the email. If you're getting like a 25% response rate as a result of that, well, then it's actually, so 1 in 4 that are opening it are responding. So you've got a good relevance. So you want to make sure that you're not annoying people, that it is good relevant emails, you're getting a response rate. After that, you're talking about what are the leads, if it's lead generation, what are the leads generated? So you know that it's not just how many people are on the list, is how long did it take you to put that list together, and what were the results of that list? So because it's, so you say, oh, well, I reached out to 50 and I got this. Well, at 50, if it took you 2 days to actually do it, well, then that's costly. So it's like with any marketing activity, you put it down to numbers, and many people who reached out, and what were the results at the end of it.
Gotcha. Oh, yes. Hello. I've got a request for you to share the link to your product.
Whoa, cool.
Right. So you definitely need to be doing that as we move forward, whether it's now or at some point, with the hashtag, so that folks could see it.
There's still an early bird offer on it, so it is still 30% off at the moment. It was 50%.
Awesome.
So, but outreach can be hugely effective. I mean, I was on the guy the other day. He said he paid for somebody to help with outreach, and within the first month he broke even. But there was a lot of people that reached out and said, "Not now. I'm not interested now." So he's building a pipeline. So he broke even on the first batch, but he has a pipeline of potential business. So again, in 6 months' time, to reach out to that list, go through your prospect list in the database and go, hey, I'll reach out to them. They said not now. So, let me send another email and go ping, 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 pick 20 people off the list, send that email, customize it, and go, hey, just following up. Very simple. But if you don't use a tool, you won't follow up in 6 months' time. And we need to have a process behind things, to make sure that we actually follow through.
That's so key. And Ian, I think I want to throw it back to maybe some of your personal experience, because I seem to recall from the video that you had with the tool that you talked a little bit about how, you developed this tool because you've kind of done this yourself, right? Yeah. This is supposed to answer a lot of your challenges. what is the one thing that you did in terms of outreach that sort of was that pivotal moment for you? And I'm going to use Razor Social, I guess. I'm assuming you used outreach to build Razor Social.
I did. From an email point of view, it was no pivotal moment. It was just my approach worked. And my approach was a combination of online and offline. So, for example, when I first started the blog, I knew that to get this growing quickly, I couldn't just sit in the office and wait for people to find my content. So I got on a plane and met people. So, build relationships that way. And then I followed up via email and continued building relationships. And I done interviews and things like that with a lot of influencers. And then I reached out to influencers and looked for opportunities to guest post. So I suppose that was a key thing for me, is being able to guest post on all these sites. And that was, again, the way I reached out to them. There's very few people refused me guest posting, but that was just the way I reached out to people, the effort I put into it.
Well, I'm actually was just responding to Dory Cooper, who said, do you favor this application more than any other? And I was saying, well, that you developed it, so I'm thinking that you favor it. But maybe we can take a spin on her question and say, because there are other outreach tools out there, Ian, aren't there? I think I talked to the Ninja
Yeah.
Outreach people and a few others. I mean, can you compare some of these tools and maybe kind of help people get a grasp of, what tool to use for what?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good people in this industry, like in terms of Ninja Outreach and Mailchimp and BuzzStream. They all have their uses and benefits, and I think they're all good people behind it. So sometimes, like for example, Ninja Outreach would be more expensive, but they have a discovery engine as part of it. So they have the discovery. I just felt that discovery wasn't something we were going to get down, because I find that the discovery engine, everybody's searching the same thing in that discovery engine. So everybody's finding the same lists and everybody's reaching out. So, you unfortunately for discovery, you need to put a bit of work and make sure it's specific to you. And I think the tools don't do it. But if you want the discovery, and that was the route, Ninja Outreach would be good for that. So, I mean, all the tools have their uses. The likes of BuzzStream, a good team behind it, good tool, but it's been around for a long while, and I feel that it's counterintuitive. It's been, there's so much functionality. It's probably actually too much functionality, and it's hard to use. We wanted something that was visually appealing, simple to use, and designed in a very business-friendly way, that not just SEO people. A lot of these tools are focused on SEO people. We wanted it so that you could do the link building if you want, but if you want to generate leads, you could also do that as well,
Got it. So I would say then, if you either want to have a more personalized list, and I'll tell you what, as much as I do like Ninja Outreach, you're exactly right. There is this database of people, and this is how I think people think that there's some shortcut to the thing. Like you do your search, you spam this email, and that really doesn't work. I mean, what were some of the things that you put, well, you talked about one that you took out, right? The search, right? Because you want people to be manual about that there's value there. What are some other features that are there or that are not there, and why is it that way?
Well, one of the things I wanted was the prospect temperature. So we have this algorithm behind the scenes that works out, when you're reaching out to people, is it working or not? And being able to produce a list of people in the future from your own list. So for example, if you reach out to me and I go, yeah, I'm not interested now, and then there's another outreach campaign, and I say, well, I am actually interested. Well, that could be a hot prospect. So they've given you a link before. Well, now you can track that and go, well, show me a list of people that gave links before for link building campaigns. There are, a list of hot ones. So I know that I can reach out again in the future, and there's a good chance I'll get another link. So I want to be able to do that. There was one thing, that is part of it. I suppose some of them have a prospect database and some don't, and that allows you to track everything going forward. I suppose one of the key things as well is making it very simple to see, is your outreach working? So we've got very simple visual indicators on your campaign, on your templates, and on the dashboard, which shows like, if your outreach is going well, you see the numbers in green. If they're not so well, you see them in orange. If they're really bad, you see them in red. So it's very easy for people to see, oh, there's an area that's not working for me. I need to improve that. So simplicity and a good, easy to use user interface, I think, was a big thing for us.
So who is your ideal user of this platform?
Well, I mean, the three areas, I suppose, are agencies, brands, and publishers. The agencies they're big users of this because they reach out on behalf of a lot of clients. So an agency would certainly be a good opportunity. But I mean, certainly for a small business point of view, there's lots of opportunity with small business to do the outreach as well. And I think what we make us different is the education we'll provide, to help people, to do this.
Where is this education? Is there like a resource center and tutorials and stuff?
There's a whole help system that we've built. That's the start. We've done one webinar so far, and we'll continue to do webinar training as well to our audience. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Especially if there's like a webinar library, that would be.
We'll certainly be building that up for people to. And like I said, I see that we have to do the education to convince people about the benefits of using this type of tool.
Absolutely. Now, what is the biggest challenge that you sort of wish could be automated? I mean, one of the things I really like about your tool, because I'm a big believer in getting your hands dirty with the data.
Yeah.
You know, anytime I've done anything en masse, guaranteed, and it only takes one snafu
Yeah.
to screw everything up. And so I happen to be a person that's sort of willing to slow things down in order to have a higher quality output. But are there some things that you wish could be automated, or things that you would recommend the folks would do to sort of make things easy, like creating that list? What should I do to kind of get my list started?
Yeah, it really depends on what you're. I mean, starting just take a list of 10 or 15 people, you know. I mean, use LinkedIn, and do a search on LinkedIn. And many people connect to people on LinkedIn and do nothing else. I mean, it's a complete waste. So you need to use that tool to find a relevant audience and connect with them there, and then do reach out to them.
Got it. So you can sort of be using your Twitter relationships and your LinkedIn relationships, and however it is that you connect with people, maybe it's even face-to-face networking. And then once you've had that, it's almost like a referral system. Once you've had that conversation with them, you can now add them to your list, put that list into the outreach tool.
Yeah.
And then you can start, I guess you set up what is it that you want from them. And then you can do multiple emails. Do these emails come out like an email marketing system, like in a sequence, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can set a sequence. So basically when emails come back in, we manage them so you can respond to them directly within our tool. And then you can send a sequence. So for example, if somebody sends an email out and nobody gets a response, well, a couple of days later, we can send a follow-up email if you want, you know.
Got it. So is the sequence something that you trigger manually, or does that run automatically?
That runs automatically as well, yeah.
Nice.
And it stops if a response comes in, it will automatically stop.
Got it. What are some of well, Ian, clearly I'm not a subject matter expert in this area. I have you here so that I could learn something. What is it that you think is not being talked about in the realm of outreach? Where do you think, what are some best practices for outreach coming into 2018?
Well, I think there's very little talk about in terms of how to do outreach effectively. When I look online, I can't find really good content, and that's where we will fill that gap in terms of the content that's out there. So it's very surprising there isn't, like, for example, if I look for research on outbound marketing, I can't find a good research report on it. So that's the gap, is the lack of knowledge out there, lack of information. So we intend to provide the best resource possible for that.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, I feel like I haven't asked you something. I feel like such a neophyte in this area. What is it that, let's look to the Twitter stream and see what folks are talking about. I think your idea about networking and getting those face-to-face relationships is really resonating with people.
Yeah.
And
it's like, I don't know, the marketing side, it's like, this dream of going, oh, let's sit at home, write some blog content, we'll drive lots of traffic and make a fortune. You talked about earlier on the overnight success. I mean, I built the site up quite quickly over a couple of years, but it was hard work. It was a slog. And it's not a case of just writing blog content and sitting at home. It's writing blog content, it's reaching out to people, it's doing interviews, it's guest posting, it's flying to events, and it's a combination of everything that delivers it. It's hard work, and it's inbound, outbound, online, offline. Put it all together. Build lots of relationships with good people and be very clear where you're going and what you need to do. That's where you get the success,
Now, you just mentioned guest posting, and I've heard people go back and forth on this. Where do I've heard people say guest post, and then like everybody was doing it. I was doing it. Everybody was doing it, right? And then it sort of went away. Now one of the things I count on for my site is guest posts. I want guest posts. I want great content from great people. What is the status of guest posting, and should folks be, what's a great way to do outreach for guest posts and good content? And how can how do you do that well?
Well, I mean, when you reach out, what people are looking for is, most people need content. So it's not a case that people don't need content. It's just that people are not presenting something useful in front of somebody. You need to prove that you can deliver good content. You need to demonstrate that, and they need to reach out to a blog or site that actually produces that relevant content. If you can get an introduction to somebody, that still works the best, so if you know somebody that writes for that person or whatever, but you need to have great content. So one of my things when I'm writing is, I'll never want to publish a poor quality post. So I'll always put in a huge amount of effort guest posting in front of somebody else's audience, because I know that if I do, then it's going to be easy to go onto the next site and say, hey, have a look at this post and see how well this did. That makes it easier.
That's fantastic. So this is something that you can do to, now I get a variety of pitches, right? I'll either get pitches that give me a finished article. There's benefits to that, or pitches that pitch an idea, or so on and so forth. What have you found with your analysis that's been most effective for folks who want to contribute guest posts?
Yeah, I suppose it's really, it's showing an understanding of the type of content that people have on a blog, and then coming up with 2 or 3 ideas. So, I would outline and go, here's 3 ideas. Do you pick A, B, or C? Just make it very easy. And if you're interested, then I'll provide more detail. But then 3 ideas typically are completely off topic. So if you can make them completely on topic, then you have actually a chance,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, what about, what is the trend that you've seen with guest posting about, like, one of the things I want, and I don't just want it for me, because I got enough guest posts. That is not the issue. Yeah. What I think is most relevant for the person requesting the guest post is that my audience wants to warm up to you. They need to see more than one thing. So what have you found to be effective? Have you found like one-off posts to be effective, just as effective as multiple ones? Or have you found that posting regularly on a particular site is a good way to go? You know what I'm saying? So you're not spreading, which is better? Is it better to spread yourself across a broad variety, or kind of go deep over a few sites?
Depends. When you're starting off guest blogging, you end up writing across multiple sites. There's no harm. If you manage then to get onto a high authority site, like, one of the big sites like Inc. or Forbes or something, it makes sense to regularly contribute to them sort of sites. So it has to be sort of a high authority site. Got it.
What other kinds of, what do you think is the outreach, whatever strategy, whether it's link building, guest posting, influencer sales, out of all the ones that your platform offers, which one do you think, should I ask, is the fastest path, or are they all different? Is there one that's sort of more effective if you were to like double down on one?
You just go for lead generation, generate leads for your business,
Yeah.
You have to generate leads, you have to market your business. So it's a combination of inbound and outbound. That's going to be the quickest. That's the one where you're going to get your money back pretty quickly off the tool,
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Well, Ian, is there anything that I have not asked you, or like, what is it that you know for sure about outbound that we can round out this conversation with, give folks like something to think about, something to do?
Well, the only thing I'd say is the cost of our tool and any other tools are not actually expensive when you see the benefit you can get. Like if you bought our tool for a year and you got one lead that turned into a sale, that's it done, So you think about just a time-saving thing, it's definitely worth it. But I would say to start some outreach, do it in a small way, do it in an authentic way, and you'll be surprised with the potential results.
And you're still offering a promotion, right?
There's still 30% discount on it. Yeah, absolutely. It's an early bird at the moment.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I am going to kind of stop us right there, give Ian a little bit of time to check out, because I know folks might be asking questions over on Twitter. But definitely, if you haven't noticed it just yet, outbound is probably the stepchild of marketing right now. Definitely a lot of opportunity there, as you heard Ian say. And check out, was it Outreach Plus, Ian?
Outreachplus.com. Yeah, thank you very much.
Outreachplus.com. You're going to get a 30% discount. Take a look at the outreach. Take a look at the resources that Ian shares. Ian, thank you so much for explaining outreach to us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okey dokey.